Last year, J. Cross warned us to be aware that the magnitude of the financial meltdown is almost beyond comprehension. I can foresee training departments being eliminated almost entirely. Now, you might argue that Jay is presenting too gloomy a picture. Even so, the evidence is undeniable that training budgets are being cut and that as a result, jobs are being lost. Anyone who works in learning and development needs to be doing all they can to ensure that they come through this period relatively unscathed, hopefully with their job intact, and still providing a valuable service to their employer or customers. This short presentation provides 10 ideas to get you thinking. Obviously, I don't claim an exclusive right to good sense, so be on the lookout for ideas from as many other sources as you can find. Now, if you're already engaged with learning technologies, then you might as well skip on to point 2. If you're in the majority, that is a learning and development professional who is at least partly in denial about the whole idea, then stick with it. Now, educational and training methods, that's the use of techniques such as discussion, assessment, games, simulations, lectures, prescribed reading, practice sessions, and so on. They're all relatively timeless. Although we make different choices from these options based on current thinking about how people best learn, the options themselves stay pretty constant. The same cannot be said for learning media, where the options are growing exponentially, along with new technologies such as the internet and mobile phones. 20 years ago, every trainer would make sure they were competent in using flip charts, whiteboards, overhead projectors, VCRs, and all the other options available at the time. Somewhere along the line since then, a startling proportion of trainers simply gave up, leaving e-learning to specialists. Big mistake. As a result, many trainers now feel alienated because they have no involvement in the application of new technology. Somehow they have to overcome this because technology does reduce travel, saving tons of money and the planet as well. Technology connects people with ideas and other people. Technology increases accessibility and flexibility. And technology is what Gen Y wants and expects. So every trainer needs to embrace technology or risk becoming increasingly marginalized as employers look to cut costs. I'll leave you to read for yourself what Jack Welch had to say on the subject. Employers are not really interested in learning. That's a job for schools and colleges. What interests them is performance. Your job is to convince the holders of the purse strings that the learning interventions that you offer are likely to generate increased performance, more so perhaps than investing the same money elsewhere. When confronted by the finance director, there's no point trotting out the same old cliches, like the idea that employees are our greatest asset. You may be right in your organization, but don't be surprised if he or she presents you with a long list of examples where this doesn't hold true. As for me, I don't like being regarded as an asset. Employees really aren't an organization's greatest asset, because they're much more important than that. Of course, you could plead with the finance director to look at the training budget as an investment, not a cost. But be prepared to talk hard numbers, because you won't be the only one asking for money at the moment. And concentrate your proposals on interventions that will address short-term business issues. Right now, no one's interested in projects that might pay off in the medium to long term. This is no time for modesty, false or otherwise. The best way to look after number one is to actively promote your brand inside and outside your organization. There are plenty of ways to do this. Here are a few suggestions. You can add credibility to your professional status by touting your membership of associations and professional bodies. If you're in any way involved with technology, I'd obviously suggest you start by joining up with the eLearning network. You might also take the opportunity to upgrade your qualifications. As far as e-learning is concerned, in the UK you can take a master's course, although this certainly isn't a short-term solution. You can obtain a certificate from providers such as the CIPD or the Training Foundation, or take one of quite a few short courses now available. If you fancy yourself as a bit of a leader in your particular specialisation, you should look out for the new Skills Awards which eLearning Age magazine and the eLearning Network will be offering later this year. And if you're never short of an opinion, then perhaps the cheapest and most immediate solution is to start a professional blog. If your blog's any good, believe me, it will get read. I'm sure this doesn't apply to you, but I reckon that learning and development professionals are not the most assertive of people. But this is really not the time for sitting back and waiting to see what happens. Sitting ducks will, unfortunately, be shot. The key is to be proactive in coming up with solutions that will help your organisation get through the current crisis. If you leave it to senior management, they'll make daft decisions because, after all, they're not the experts on learning and development. You are. As J. Cross warns us, survivors must write new agendas while they still have desks to write on. And this really is a time for action, not for rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Now, you don't really have to be reminded of the benefits of stealing. For any trainer, it's ingrained behaviour. We're always on the lookout for good ideas that we can adapt to our own interventions, and that's just how it should be. If e-learning's your thing, then in the UK you could do no better than to check out the Towards Maturity website, where there are dozens of case studies of successful projects. These will be shared even more widely through the Next Generation Learning at Work initiative, which has been launched this year by Bector. Another good source of case studies, now that the Learning Technology Show has passed, is the one-day events and webinars run by the eLearning Network. And if you're aiming high, why not check out those organisations that were winners in the 2008 eLearning Awards? They must be doing something right.